Hi, guys. Welcome to tonight's live chat. I hope you're doing okay. Hopefully, everything is okay on my end. You can hear me, you can see me, hopefully. Oh, goodness. The last week was a mess, right? We did like a late night live chat because my battery died. So, hopefully, tonight you guys can hear me, you can see me. Everything looks okay on my end. So we might go ahead and just jump in. You know what, guys? I was so close to canceling tonight. Today was a little bit much for me. I didn't feel good. I thought, I hope I'm not getting sick. You know, I work around a lot of kids and family and kids and families. And you know how kids can be. They want to hug you. Sometimes they want to hold your hand. I was leading one of my kiddos that comes and see me for therapy. He's 6 years old. Love him. Oh my God. If I had to adopt someone, it would probably be him. Cute as a button, sweet as he can be. And so we're going in the play therapy room in my office. And he's like, here, Miss Tamara, I'll hold your hand and guide you. But while he's holding my hand, guess what he's doing? Wiping his cute little nose, coughing. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. So here I am tonight, guys. And I hope I can make it because I had to literally move some appointments today because my head was pounding. So, but I'm here. I told you guys, I'm not going to just be like, okay, I'm not doing my chat. I'm going to push my way through this. So, it's good to see you guys. I see you guys signing in. It looks like you guys can hear me, or you would have been saying, you know, what's wrong? Something's wrong. So let's jump in. All right, guys. I actually produced a video on Tuesday. You guys know about it, right? It totally went viral. I was so amazed because I'm constantly throwing different things out there here and there just to kind of see what is going on in the world today. So what is needed here? What is the bigger issue? What is the big topic? And Tuesday's topic was a topic that not only the people who are subscribed to my channel are watching, but the people outside of the channel. And so that video now stands at around 20,000 views. And that happened within a 1-day period. And it was amazing to get all the floods of messages, not only on YouTube, but on my Instagram, on my business page, through Facebook, on my email address. And I remember signing off. And a couple of hours went by, and next thing I know, I look and it said, 16.1 thousand, then it went up to 18.2 thousand, and now it sits again at a little bit around 20,000 views within a 1 to 2 day period span of time. And when I opened up the analytics just to see what it is that attracted so much attention to that video in 1 to 2 days, the analytics showed me something that's interesting. That most people are dealing with and really trying to understand the mentality and the energy behind a person's mind games, deep-seated manipulation, chaos, right? And their attitude and disposition towards other people. Mind games are at the core of most of my clients' problems, whether it's dealing with a parent, a spouse, a teacher, somebody in the world, another professional, whatever. It's the client, and possibly for most of you, the issue is I don't feel safe in a world where I feel that I'm being manipulated. I feel like I'm being controlled. I feel like I'm being played games with. I feel like I'm not being taken seriously. I feel like my family has just taken my thoughts and my feelings and has made a caricature of them, a joke of them. I don't know how to assess this person or determine where our relationship is because they move the goalpost every time I think we're one place, they move it another place, right? And I chase that area and they move it to the next place. So it almost feels like a chess match, right? And for people who are calculating and controlling and manipulative and evil and dark, it's very easy for them to play a mind game. And believe it or not, their mind games, their behavioral problems that they are drawing you into has a very interesting way that it dominates other areas of your life. Think about a person who just plays around with you all the time. They don't take you seriously. They don't believe anything that you say, right? And they run with their own narrative. So this is what tonight's live chat is about. Narrative controllers, right? What is going on with those people who control the narrative? And they do it in a way that's believable. They do it in a way that's manipulative. And why do they do it? And why is it that their personality pathology, and I'm going to break down what that is. Why is it that their personality pathology is now seeping into my own life? And I can't be understood. I'm not believed. I'm not listened to. I'm not taken seriously. I'm sinking. And I'm sure you guys have been there before. I'm verbalizing this in a way that you can kind of, at least I'm attempting to verbalize this in a way that is relatable to you. Now, let me also say, guys, that whether it's somebody that you're in a relationship with, a coworker, a spouse, marriage partner, a parent, a sibling, when they grab a hold of your story, right? So what has happened to you? Maybe it's a traumatic situation. Maybe you grew up under abuse. Maybe you've had a series of bad relationships. Maybe you've dealt with complex and family PTSD. Maybe you have dealt with harassment and fear, anxiety, mental health challenges, relationship ups and downs, whatever the case. When someone takes, and let's make that someone a family member, when they take a hold of your narrative, they run with it where they want to go, right? And they control how other people see you. So in other words, they spin messages, they spin your reality, they spin your story, and they do it in a way that allows them to take that control. And they have the control of the narrative as well as how other people see you. Controlling the narrative ensures that they can stay in the driver's seat forever, how long they need to. So let me give you an example of this. I had a case a couple years ago. It had to be maybe 4 years ago. Yeah, 4 years ago, 2021, 2022, somewhere around in there. And dad brought his children to therapy. Now, he came to me with this vague kind of, I just want to talk to you and get some ideas from you. And I think I may want to pursue therapy, which once he got to me, it was very obvious that he didn't want to try therapy. Okay. He wanted to see that if he can get this therapist right here to somehow jump on the bandwagon with he and his new wife and her family and, all of her social group. He wanted to see if I would jump on the bandwagon with her and somehow allow myself to be manipulated by him and his new wife to manipulate his children. And what he ultimately wanted was parental alienation. So this is a mind game, okay? So this is the first spinning of the narrative and the first mind game. Okay, so we're going to call this, I'm going to put it in the chat box, spinning of the narrative. Okay. And this kind of spinning of the narrative, think of spinning of the narrative as an umbrella term. Okay. Underneath spinning of the narrative is mind games. So that's what he's doing. So his mind game, okay, was that of parental alienation. What is parental alienation? It's the process by which one parent isolates that child, teenager, even adult child, okay? It controls the thoughts and feelings and behaviors of that child against the other parent. So it's influence that causes the child, even adult children. Sorry, guys, I'm typing slow tonight. Even adult children to go against the other parent. Okay? That is the first mind game. So he wanted to, kind of suck me into that so that I can then support his goal, his new wife's goal, in kind of facilitating this parental alienation. And what he did was not only spin the narrative, but he also controlled the narrative. He changed its meaning and he controlled it. And he tried to drive it so that he could ultimately get what he wanted. People like him often have very dark and complicated personality traits. So there's something known as personality pathology. What is a personality pathology? It's a pervasive, chronic, inflexible behavior that deviates from the norm of society. And it kind of creates occupational, social, and family impairment. Okay, so I'm going to type this out for you. Personality pathology. It is, again, it's a pervasive, chronic, and inflexible behavior. It's a pervasive, chronic, inflexible behavior. Chronic, pervasive, inflexible. That's all you want to keep in mind. Chronic, pervasive, inflexible. It's a pervasive, chronic, inflexible behavior that deviates from the societal norm and causes significant occupational, so work, social, and family impairment. That sounds like a lot. Broken down language, it's a personality problem. It has nothing to do with the mental illness, nothing to really do with trauma. It's personality. Those funny people in your life that every time, I have them in mind, every time you say something, they come up with a real quick snarky joke and you just bust out laughing, right? Because they are hilarious. And it's not like you can emulate that. You can't emulate that and be like, I'm going to steal everything she just said over there. I'm going to use that in my own life and see how far I get. It doesn't come off the same. It doesn't feel right, right? So personality pathology is kind of like that. You know the person, you see the person, you don't feel things are right. Something about that exchange is odd. Something about that exchange is off. Something about being in that person's presence says, warning sign, this person is trouble. And when you feel like that, and nobody else can make you quite feel that way, then most likely you're dealing with a personality pathology. It's a pervasive, chronic, inflexible form of behavior. It's something the person has kind of become over time, and it's not easy to put it into therapy. You're going to have to wait on that person, most likely to meet with some kind of challenge in life, divorce, being fired, getting in trouble with the law, before they are willing to change, if they ever decide to change, right? So a person who spins the narrative, a person who plays mind games, a person who, which we're going to talk about this tomorrow, is full of lies, right? Deceit, a web of lies, chaos. When you're dealing with these kind of people, keep in mind, they have a personality pathology. This is not a normal set of behaviors. Yes, most people lie. Yes, they tell white lies. And yes, no one's perfect. And you're also right if you think that, human beings have inflexible behaviors that are hard to shift, 100%. But there's a difference between a human being who has all of those things because they are human versus a person who has a series of characteristics, traits, personalities, behaviors, whatever you want to call it, This is here because of genetic influence and what the environment has fed them. I have a young man right now, just came to me for therapy, literally 10 years old, 10. And it was so hard for me to tell this to the parents, that your son, the field of psychology tries very, very hard sometimes to protect children from labels, right? Like, we don't label them bipolar anymore. We say disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. We doll it up a little bit. So because of that, we try not to say the kids have personality disorders. That child over there is borderline. That child over there is narcissistic. We shy away from that, right? But does that mean that a child doesn't have a personality pathology? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We can play with the lingo all day long. But the reality is this: children will sometimes show you that they are developing very, very quickly into a character, into a series of character traits, into a personality pathology that's not going to be shakable. It is going to remain a very pervasive, chronic, inflexible form of behavior. And these individuals often, and this is what I told the family that I currently have, that these are the behaviors that are going to stay steady for a very long time. We're going to go through the developmental stages, but it's going to be a rough ride, because this person has pervasive, rigid characteristics. Oftentimes they play mind games. Oftentimes they spin the narrative. Oftentimes they place blame where it doesn't belong, right? And it stays rigid. They're not going to change. They deviate from what is culturally acceptable. We expect kids to be these happy-go-lucky kids who do bad things every now and then because they're kids, but at the core, they're good. Well, not necessarily. If your child has a personality pathology that's developing, we're talking about a child and maybe an adolescent who is deviating from the norm of society, so much so that it's a disruption to your life. That is not just a typical kid. There's something going on there. So the individual deviates. The other piece of a personality pathology is that there's significant problems in 3 key areas. I'm going to put that in the chat box. Significant impairment in 3 core areas. You ready for this? School or work. Oh my God. School or work, home, and the community. Oh my God. Bear with me, guys. Significant impairment in 3 core areas for people who have personality pathology: home, the community, and work or school. And that's awful. Maladaptive behaviors impact those 3 different settings. And maladaptive behaviors for us would be, in terms of this conversation tonight about schemers and people who control and people who play mind games and people who manipulate, what's most important here is that it's, again, rigid, deviates from the norms of society. There's significant problems, and the behaviors are maladaptive. And the behaviors that are maladaptive includes playing mind games, scheming, lying, cheating, manipulating, deceiving, all of that. Like, it's all in an ugly pile. You're a deceiver, you're a liar, you change things, you spin narratives, you manipulate. I'll use that word. You manipulate the way that other people see me. So oftentimes people with personality pathologies, they mess with your reputation. They mess with your reputation. They try to drive the narrative in such a way that it causes other people to look at you a second time, a third time, a fourth time. It causes doubt. Most people with personality pathologies who lie, cheat, steal, deceive, and attempt to control, they try to get that person to see you differently, to have questions about your character, to question your morals, to doubt you. And they know, the individuals with a personality pathology, they know they can go a very long way if they could just get other people to doubt you. I just want to get other people to see you differently. And that's control for them. And that's why they're schemers, because they've already calculated, pre-calculated, calculated, and post-calculated what's going to happen. Isn't that ugly, guys? Horrendous, right? And I used to work with these people, my Lord, in the criminal justice system and the juvenile justice system, in residential treatment facilities where boys were locked on a unit. They couldn't go into society because they were sexually violent. They were violent, criminal, cold, callous individuals who played mind games, who were manipulative and controlling of everything and everybody, and it's so, so depressing, right? The other piece of this is a term that we call egocentric. Let me put that in the description box. Egocentric. What does that mean? Tamara, stop throwing these big words around. It's really not as big as it sounds, guys. Really what it is it's a personality pathology. It's an individual, like a narcissist, for example, who has very consistent behaviors with how they behave and see themselves. So let's say, for example, your dad has this dominance, this need for high dominance. He's got this deep-seated need to be on top and control and to drive at all times. He even takes pride in the fact that he's quote unquote different. He likes that he's a bully. He actually likes that people kind of back up when he stands up close to them in public, or he coughs real loudly. Everybody takes a look at him, or he goes into a store and he sneezes so loud that people turn around and say, "Bless you," right? Just that little bit of attention does something for him on the inside. So his personality traits are egocentric. Why? Because they are consistent with how he views himself. So his self-perception, his way of seeing himself and his behaviors are very consistent. And to him, nothing's wrong with him because he has a high mind. He wants attention. He feels and thinks he's better. He controls and dominates. And if you get involved with him in whatever capacity, he's going to manipulate you, control you, and spin the narrative. And to him, because he's a narcissist, nothing is wrong with him. So we're dealing with personality traits that are egocentric. In other words, they are consistent with how he views himself. And if your behaviors are consistent with how you view yourself, is there a reason to change? Absolutely not. And so this is a trap for people with personality pathology. So let me break this down. So egocentric, meaning that behaviors are consistent with self-perception. Perception, meaning narcissist and all of his behaviors line up to him and it's worked for him. And he can use all his narcissistic behaviors to control, dominate, scheme, lie, cheat, and control. So why am I trying to change? I don't need to go to therapy. I don't need therapy. No therapist is ever going to believe me. They're never going to be able to meet me where I'm at. I need somebody that's highly, highly expert-like to talk to me because I'm greater than all the other people in the world. Narcissists irk me. Do they irk you? They irk me. I'm just going to put in here, a narcissist doesn't feel the need to change because their behaviors are normal. So why change? Egocentric. That's the best way I can put that. Okay. One more thing before I go to the chat box. Yeah, I know, Lori. I'm going to put Lori up here. Lori says, big irk. Yeah, I can't stand them. Have you guys ever been, before we go on to the next point, and Lori, I'm going to stay on you for a second. Have you ever been in a public place and you literally see a narcissist clearly holding intimidating body language? It gets to me so much. What's the intimidating body language? Well, you want to consider this. Is this a covert narcissist or is this an overt narcissist, right? A covert narcissist may not be standing in a robust, position like a guy who overtrains his body and becomes so puffed up and so muscular that he looks unreal. We're not talking about that kind of narcissist. We're talking about a narcissist. So if this is a covert narcissist and they're in public, their disposition may not be this robust, controlling person who's going to pound everybody that walks by him. That would be a little bit more of an overt narcissist. I'm powerful, I'm strong, I'm big, I've built myself up. And, they hold their arms out a certain way and nobody better say anything to me, because if they do, I'm going to kill them. Kind of disposition. You can feel their attitude just oozing off of them, right, guys? But a covert narcissist wouldn't take that kind of disposition. They would do something more sneaky, like stand so close up on you, it's creepy, or stand so close up on you in line that you feel like they're breathing down the back of your neck. And when you turn around and look at them, they say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm taking over your space," right? There's two different narcissists you have to consider. But Lori, it is a big irk, right? Because yes, fairy girl. Yes. Good to see you. Welcome to the chat tonight, fairy girl and Lori. It's good to see you both. I'm coming to the chat box in just a little bit here. But you can find those kind of narcissists in society, and it irks you, right? Sometimes I want to be like, can you just back up off my heels? I'm very claustrophobic, so I have to have some space, and the key to dealing with either a covert or overt narcissist is to totally ignore them. Why, guys? Because of what we're learning tonight, which is that they spin the narrative, they control the narrative, right? They dominate, they need the attention, they have a core trait, which is a need for high dominance, right? They also tend to have this pervasive, chronic, rigid pattern of behavior. So keep in mind, you're not the first person who has been offended by them, hurt by them, controlled by them, right? So you're a part of the lineup of victims that they have had prior to you. And so with somebody like that, do you give them your energy and play into them? Absolutely not. You run the opposite direction and steer clear of them, because whoever they claim to be or however they want to see you want you to see them, doesn't matter, because at the core of who they are, they have a personality pathology. And it isn't a situation where it's just you being harmed. There's been thousands before you, and maybe even more personal, like family members or a spouse or something, Let me also throw in here, somebody asked me, let me see if I can find it for 1 second here. I'm gonna give you just like a little bit of insight on the dark triad, and then we're gonna go ahead to the chat box, and then we're gonna get back into the content. Give me 1 second here, guys. I'm gonna pull this up really quickly. So I'm going to the comment section on my channel because somebody asked me, and I told him that I would be. Darn, how do you get to it? Hold on. No. Let me see if I can scroll. I said to him, I said, you know what? We're going to be talking about the dark triad traits tonight. So he was very happy about that. Let me see. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find them. Because when I say I've got 900 million messages since Tuesday, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. All right. I may have to move forward without them. Okay. I think I may have to move forward, guys. I'm not seeing them. They're like buried under all these comments. Okay. We'll keep moving. You know who you are out there, my friend. I told you we were going to be talking about the dark triad traits. Nope. Still can't find them. Let me give you some insight into that very briefly. Okay. Because here's what we're dealing with. Somebody asked me by email the other day, how do you know that you're dealing with the dark triad traits? And I explained to them that you're not going to be able to stand in line at the grocery store and say, oh, that's a dark empath. Oh, that's a person with Machiavellian personality traits. You're not going to be able to do it that way. Here's what happens. And I know you've probably dealt with this when it comes to schemers, controllers, and manipulators in your own life. There's a common behavior that is found in people who have dark triad traits. What is the dark triad? Let me explain that briefly. The dark triad includes 3 different core traits. One is narcissism. Okay, I'm going to break it down in just a minute. Narcissism. The other one is psychopathy. And the third one is Machiavellianism. And if we're talking about the dark tetrad, okay, that is also a thing, then we might as well add in sadistic personality traits. Okay, but for right now, we're talking about the dark triad. We're going to talk more about, the differences and what this is tomorrow, but this is like a brief overview. So the dark triad, at the center and the core of the dark triad, is callousness, okay, dishonesty, which is a schemer's game, right? There is also lies and manipulation. Okay, this is at the core of a dark empath, right here, guys. Callousness, dishonesty, lies, and manipulation. Now, narcissism can sit at the top. What's narcissism? Come on, guys. You know what this is. Can somebody send me some definition or traits of a narcissist? I'm going to wait on you guys. So I'm engaging you a little bit tonight. Come on, guys. Where's the narcissistic? You guys know this real good. I'm going to wait on you. What are the traits of narcissism? Yeah. Thank you, James. James McDonald. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome. Lack of empathy. Yes. Lack of empathy. Come on, guys. Yes. Anne, good to see you. Welcome back, my friend. Anne says entitlement. Yes. Yeah, the good glow. Good to see you. Welcome back. Entitled, unempathic. Yes. Unempathic. Yup. Yeah. Curtis, hello and welcome. It's good to see you, it's good to see you, my friend. Center of their own universe. Come on, Curtis. This is not a clinical term. Come on here. But I'm going to write it down because I love it. Okay. Center of their own universe. That needs to be a symptom. Universe. Love it, Curtis. Mark Lee, good to see you. Welcome back. Says false self-image. Yes. False self-image. Yep. Give it a think says lacks whole object relations. Now, I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of you. That is not, you're just about as Curtis. That is not a symptom, guys. Give it a think. You're wonderful, though. And so are you, Curtis. These need to be a part of the term of narcissism, right? But we're not even there yet. We're not even going that deep into narcissism as a field, right? But I agree with you. Give it a think. There is a whole lack of object relations. We're going to get to that. I'll explain it tomorrow. MS, good to see you, my friend, says arrogant all the way. That's the thing that gets me every time. Phil Bradley, it's good to see you. He says greed. Yes. Oh my God. Selfishness. Magical Logical. Hello and welcome. It's good to have you. Welcome to the channel. Magical Logical says no center meaning, no one home. Yes. So can we say shallow and just kind of absent? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Dawn One, good to see you, my friend. Welcome back. Insecurities, 100%. That's why they can't stand. That's why they can't stand. Captain Commenter, welcome to tonight's live chat. Good to see you. Triangulators to the max, 100%. So triangulators, you guys are good. Yeah, thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. I want to put you in here somewhere. Lorfet, good to see you. Welcome back. Says excessive need of admiration. Oh my God, you're so wonderful. You're beautiful. You're so talented. You're so smart. Way to go. Oh my God. I once had a client, and then I need to get back into this because you guys are going all the way with the terms. I love it. I'm going to have to scroll up. But I had a client like that a couple of years ago, and the mother just showered her daughter with all this praise, even in front of me, and would be wasting my good old time in therapy because she's talking about how wonderful her kid is. And it wasn't so much that her kid was this drop dead, gorgeous, intelligent, smart woman that every man in the universe wanted. It wasn't that. Because if I'm honest with you, she wasn't where her mother was placing her in a variety of different areas. She was very snooty, very rude, very uncaring, very unloving. But mom's narcissism, if I can say it, said, I want all the attention on me because that is my daughter. I birthed her, kind of a disposition. You know what I mean? Ellie Wen, good to see you. Welcome back. Thieves. I was waiting on that one. I was waiting on it. Nobody said it. I was getting ready to say it. Yes, it is sad B. I agree with that. Yeah. NGO, good to see you. Welcome back. NGO says narcissists are a literal horror show. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yep. Magical Logical says, so glad to have you. Magical Logical says no self-awareness as well. There you go. No self-awareness. There you go. And when you don't have self-awareness, you can't change. All right, guys. You guys are wonderful. Jennifer Huber, hello and welcome. It's good to see you tonight. Jennifer Huber says vindictive, 100%. But here's the thing. You ready for this? All right, guys, we're going to switch off to Machiavellianism, okay? You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for that. Vindictive. Where do you think that goes? Does somebody have like a wild guess? We're talking about the dark triad. Jennifer Huber, you're right. They are competitive. Yep. She said vindictive. Where do you guys think vindictive goes? Where do you think that goes? I'm waiting on you. I don't want to. Ellie Wen said slimy. Ellie Wen. I don't disagree. I was looking for some clinical terms, though. T.Y. Cobb says superiority all the time. All the time. All right, I'm going to throw this out here. You ready? Yes. James McDonald said power hungry, jealous. Muse Swift. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Welcome back. Good to see you tonight. Says grandiosity. Yep. Jealous. Lily Lane. Good to see you. Welcome back. Yep. I agree. Yep. Amita T. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Welcome to the channel. It's good to have you. Amita says they'll avenge you if you do to them what they do to you. 100%. Okay, you ready for this? Live Life. Good to see you, my friend. She says, Live Life says, oh my God, I'm looking at two different people. I'm sorry. Live Life says vindictive means narcissistic rage. No, you ready for this? I'm going to give you the answer. Ooh, it's a big word. Machiavellianism. Man, some of you are probably like, oh yeah, because here's what happens. A narcissist does like to strike at you, especially if you cause a narcissistic injury. Now, a narcissistic injury would be something like straight up telling a covert narcissist, you are not as handsome as you think you are. You're a little overweight. You're terribly rude. You disrespect everyone in your space. And you don't seem to understand that there are people out there that might just have things a little bit more than you do. Now, if you were to come at them with that very harsh reality, that would cause a narcissistic injury because you're just stripping them, right? They cloak themselves. Remember, I'm handsome, I'm smart, I'm wonderful, I'm great. Nobody else in the world is me. It's just me. It's me. It's me. It's me. And at a certain point, they start to believe their own damaging lies, right? And so If you were to strike at them and cause a narcissistic injury, then they would retaliate. Vindictiveness is a Machiavellian trait. So what happens with a person who has Machiavellian traits? Well, they have low morals, low principles, LES, not principle, principles. So low morals, low principles, they lack ethics, and they lack decency. Okay? That's what makes them vindictive. They're vindictive because they don't have the internal ethics, morals, laws, boundaries to exist in society in a way that's healthy. So these individuals are where that vindictiveness comes from. Isn't that an interesting thing? I know some of you are probably like, what the heck? Well, this is how complicated it gets. And that's why when people come to see me for therapy, if they start bringing up narcissist, I think my dad's narcissist, I'll ask them, well, what makes you think that? And then they'll give me all these different definitions. And I'll say, you know what? It actually sounds like he leans more towards a psychopath. So what's wrong with a psychopath? I'm just going to break this down briefly, and then we'll go to the chat box, guys. The psychopath, I know you guys know what that is, so I'm not going to even challenge you there. Psychopath, arrogance, strategic, cold, uncaring. Did you set that car over there on fire? Yup. Don't care. I'm calling the police. Do what you need to do. That is literally their disposition. Do what you need to do. The police show up. Hi, officer. Shakes his hand. How are you this evening? I'm sorry my wife called you. You know, she's dealing with anxiety. Police officer may say, oh, okay, yeah. She called and said you were going to set her car on fire. Oh, yeah. She just got out of the hospital. She's been in there for bipolar disorder and anxiety. So, we're going through a marital dispute, and anything I do, she's calling you guys. And I think it's a total disservice because you guys do a lot for our community. You guys are moral people that need to be respected, not dealing with some crazy husband, ex-wife kind of stuff. That is exactly how they will lead that conversation. And the officer may stand there like, wow, that was a really nice guy over there. He was respectful. He was engaging. He was great. Right? And they are going to be confused. So a psychopath, guys, and I learned this a long time ago when I found myself counseling a child of a psychopath. I found myself counseling a psychopath. And I also found myself really evaluating and psychoanalyzing a psychopath. And so it terrified me because if a person can be so dark and evil, right? Cold, callous, and uncaring, and you go to call 911 because those are the people that are there to rescue you, and they get there and the psychopath acts like everything is okay, that you're actually the problem, they're normal. What do you think the police is going to do? They're not going to do anything. They don't see anything. They have no evidence of anything. And the person that is the psychopath is going to, what, guys? Control the narrative. The narrative is what? You just got out of the hospital for 2 very serious conditions, bipolar disorder and severe anxiety. Would the diagnosis support? Here's where they get strategic. Would the diagnosis support why she called the police? Absolutely. She's got what? Severe anxiety. Oh, makes sense. That's why she called 911. She's anxious, right? Bipolar disorder. Does the diagnosis support their behavior? I'm swung over to, I'm manic. I'm anxious. I'm wound up. I'm not grounded. I'm impulsive. And that would make sense to an officer as to why you would rush and call the police for much of nothing. So a psychopath knows how to connect those dots very strategically and scarily to help the officer see things his way. So here's how this looks. This is going to be, I should have been a whole lot more neat with this. What I'll do is I will give you a diagram later on in the chat box or in the comments section so you can actually see this and not have my messy writing. But here's what we're looking at, guys. Do you see that? Whoa, that's a bad view. So let's try this. Narcissism is at the top, okay? The core of a dark triad or a dark empath, right? Do you see the core in the middle? Callousness, dishonesty, lies, manipulation. Machiavellianism is right over here, okay? Low morals, ethics, no decency. And of course, you know the psychopath. What I'm going to do is I'll write this out in a neater way, or I'll give you a diagram and I'll post it in the comments section as soon as we sign off. That way you can see where I'm coming from. But there you have it. There is the breakdown of the dark triad traits. And what's scary is one person can have all three of those things: Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy. And the even scarier piece of the puzzle is that all three of those things complement each other. They complement each other. A narcissist is in and of itself a problem, right? But what helps that narcissist manipulate and get what he or she wants is to have that psychopath edge. They've got to have that charming inner man that knows how to, again, connect the dots in a way that gets them off, that spins the narrative. And what complements that narcissism and that psychopathy? The Machiavellianism. Why? Machiavellianism helps them calculate what they need to do next. It helps them risk things. They are risky. They don't care, you know? And the Machiavellian traits, their social adaptation is poor, meaning they don't have what it takes to blend in with society. That's not who they are. And a lot of times, and I hate to say this, a lot of times that's attractive to some people. You're mysterious, you know? And that is not a good thing. There's no conformity. So they don't care about rules and laws. And what does a psychopath need in order to drive their behaviors, their cold behavior, their callousness, their dominating behavior? What do they need? They need that Machiavellian core. They're sadistic. You know, they don't have morals and ethics at the core of who they are. You know, that's a very, very sad thing, right, guys? Okay, let me just get a few comments in. Welcome some of you. We already kind of engaged. I already pulled you guys into that a little bit, but let me just engage you just a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead into what is wrong here with these individuals. Why are they this way? Why are schemers this way? I'm going to break down personality clusters for you just briefly, and then we're going to talk about the impact. Because if you're around a controller, a schemer, a person who plays mind games, you're in for the ride of your life, right, guys? Yeah. Mark Taylor, it's good to see you. Welcome back. Mark Taylor says criminal behavior all the way. All the way. Ty Cobb, I think I said hello to you earlier, but in case I didn't, hello and welcome. It's good to see you. Ty Cobb says rebels without a clue. Yep. And also rebels without a fear of retaliation, without a fear of punishment. They could care less. Yeah. Captain Commenter says they have the Messiah complex. Yep. A lot of times they do. A lot of times they do. That's how very unstable they are. That is just, that's who they are. Lily Lane, I'm going to star your comment in the chat box. I love that. And I very much agree. It does the same for me. Totally agree with that. Axe to Edge, it's good to see you, my friend. Welcome back. Axe to Edge says, is it possible to go from narcissist to psychopath? Yes. What happens is you don't go from narcissist to psychopath. You actually stay there. If narcissism is the more dominant set of personality traits, then you're going to always be a narcissist. But can you develop over time some psychopathic traits? 100%. And is it possible that if you're a narcissist and you're a psychopath, is it possible that you have the dark triad traits? And that answer is yes, because a psychopath and a narcissist can very much become sadistic, can very much have this cynical view of the world. And that's that Machiavellian edge. So yes, all these things kind of overlap, and that's what makes it so difficult for most people to grasp an understanding, because it's like, well, what's a narcissist versus a psychopath versus Machiavellian personality traits? Like, what is this? And the reality is we're still trying to figure out what this is. All we know in the field so far is that a person can possess Machiavellian traits, narcissistic traits, and psychopathic traits all in the same body, and figuring out how that happened, when it happened, how that happened. We still have research going about that. Yeah. It's overwhelming. Phoenix, good to see you. Welcome. Ryan King, hello and welcome to the channel. It's good to have you. You have my brother's name. Ryan says, abusive by choice, vampires. Yeah, I would call them emotional vampires. They just suck all the energy out of you, I can feel that. I can feel that when I'm in session. One of my ways of identifying that I'm dealing with a narcissist is when I start feeling tired. When I start feeling tired, drained, or as if I am not being listened to, considered, I'm not being given room to give them the feedback that they're asking me for, then I know I'm possibly dealing with a narcissist. I don't always come out and say, your problem is that you're a narcissist, but I know that you're a narcissist. It may not be productive for me to tell you that, but you're a narcissist. And it's usually when I get that idea, usually when I start feeling drained, because the conversation is me, 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 and everybody who's done bad things to me, and so you get to a place where you say, you know what, that's a narcissist. And if you find yourself using your intuition and you feel like they're a little bit more than just a narcissist, you're probably right. You're probably right. Okay. All right. B says, oh my God, my child is showing traits. I understand. You're saying what? I almost saw my child is showing traits. Not sure what you meant there, but I have an idea. B goes on to say, but can I blame her from how far our family has come from grandparents to parents to now me parenting? I understand what you mean. I understand what you mean. So let me throw this out there. If you feel like your child could have traits of the dark triad traits, or traits of narcissism, or traits of psychopathy, you can kind of get in, because kids can sometimes be very resilient and malleable. You can take them and kind of mold. If they have some deep core problems and it looks like they already have a very robust personality at 8, 9, 10, then you're going to have a little bit of a problem. I would immediately put them into some therapy, and I would put them into some therapy with a really good therapist, not a therapist who wants to be a good therapist, not a therapist who has a good reputation, but a therapist who actually knows what they're looking at and can kind of grab a hold of those personality traits and say, no, we're going this way. You have to see things this way. You have to engage in society that way. So you really want a therapist who can say, this is maladaptive and this is socially adaptive, right? So I would get the child a really good therapist. That's what I would do. Okay, let me keep going, guys. NGO, I think I welcomed you. NGO says, these individuals, the narcissist, will try to sabotage a person's success if said person allow it out of jealousy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They'll sabotage. They'll talk bad about you. They'll try to take control of your reputation. I've been saying this since the beginning of the live chat. They spin the narrative, Yeah. Oh, yeah. Johan, hello. Welcome, my friend. It's good to see you. Little Johan says, do you have any books I can buy now that I know my dad is a psychopath to learn? Excuse me. Yes, I do. One is I'm looking at them right now. Let me grab them. Okay. Hold on. There's quite a few. Hold on. There's a few over here, guys. And I'm not in my office. I'm in my home office. So I don't have all the books, but here's a couple that are on my bookshelf. In Sheep's Clothing by Dr. Simon. Dr. Simon. This is a great book. Okay. Short read, easy to read, is way better than what I'm giving you in this live chat tonight because he's just breaking things down. Okay. This one is a book that my publisher has, and it's Overcoming Destructive Anger. Okay. Whoa. Sorry, guys. Overcoming Destructive Anger. Can you see that? Love this. It's a short read as well. This is a really good book because it breaks down anger. It explains why that person is angry. It gives you dialogues and charts to be able to identify their patterns. The list goes on. And this was my all-time favorite book when I was in college over a decade ago, maybe a little longer. This is called Foundations of Psychopathology. You may not be able to get this book. See that? Foundations of Psychopathology from John Nehemiah. Excuse me. This is also a really good book, short read. I love this book because, see, look at this. It's like literally ancient, but I love this book. You see where my little, what do you call these things? Bookmarkers are. But I love this book because it's one of those old-fashioned books that includes really good psychological thought that hasn't been manipulated by modern society. So he gives it to you like it is, you know? So there you go. There's a couple for you, little Johan. I hope that's helpful. All right, let's keep moving, guys. M and L Odell, did I miss you? I think I did. Welcome to tonight's live chat. It's good to see you. And yes, you're right. Kissing up, that's the worst thing. I hate it so very much. I hate it so very much. Yeah. Yeah, they'll do that all the time. They flatter as well. They flatter as well to get what they want out of you. I was talking to, it might have been you, Lily. Was it you, Lily? Lily Lane? It might have been you. It might have been you. You and I were talking about, I told you that somebody said to me once, it might have been my grandmother, because she used to say this all the time, that you can identify a manipulator. I think it was you and me, Lily Lane. If you can identify a manipulator, the number one thing that you want to look for, you ready for this, guys, is the reaction to you telling them no. I think that was me and you, Lily Lane. We were talking about that. And if not, forgive me, but I think it was you and me. And my grandmother used to say that, and I remember thinking, doesn't most people get upset when you tell them no? But I understood what she meant the older I got. And if I put up a boundary, no, I don't want, nope, I don't want to go to that party. No, I don't want to date you. No, you know, the person would flip if they were manipulative. Yes, most people do not like being told no, but the reality is some people, especially those who are manipulated, calculating, and controlling, you tell them no, and it triggers this breakdown in them because number one, they thought they could manipulate you. Number two, they were scheming and calculating and hoping that you would say yes. And when you say no, what do? You put up a block that blocks their access to what they wanted. And so then you see them crumble. And so I think that's the best thing to kind of keep in the back of your mind, that if I tell this person no, there's one of two ways they can respond. One way is socially adaptive. It's healthy. It's the way you should respond. I'm a little disappointed, but I respect that and I understand. End of story, right? And they go on and keep going on with life. And they keep staying connected to you and maybe being a friend to you, a family member, whatever, right? But if you have somebody who is calculating, scheming, manipulating, and wanting to get their way, the minute you say no to them, it's all over. No more friends, no more family, no more kindness. They completely change, just like flipping a switch, you know, and that's how you can kind of identify that, oh, okay, I see. You're a manipulator. You like to manipulate people. Gotcha. Okay. Ann Pulser says, oh, like Chris Watts in the interview before he confessed and played like he didn't know when he darn well what he did. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. And keep in mind that may not actually be an act. There are some people, and we're going to go back to the content on this one, okay? There are some people who have such a split personality that his psychopathic disposition may have been, I don't know what's going on. What's going on? Remember in my video on Tuesday, for those of you who may have seen it already, my video on Tuesday, I made it very clear that there are certain ways that people play mind games. And what's a way that they play mind games? To act oblivious. What? Really? When? How? What? I don't know what you're talking about. That's their whole game. To play oblivious. I don't know what's going on. We know you know what's going on. You know more about it than we do because you're the one who murdered your family. But a lot of times that game playing and scheming disposition is, I don't know what's going on. Who said what? Really? It's pathetic, right? But then you also want to keep in mind that these kind of personality traits, these kind of people who often have poor emotional responses to things, they could have a very split self where they can be very charming, very intelligent, very engaged. And then on the other side of that, very murderous and cold and callous. And they turn that side of their mind off after they've done the crime. So they're separated. I've had kids in my office who are like this. They are separated from the reality of their behavior. I once had a child. I have surveillance everywhere. Okay. Just because of the families I see, the cases I have, the list goes on, in my office environment. And so there was one child that I had 2 years ago who attempted to steal from the waiting room. Now, my waiting room is family friendly. Okay. Surveillance, there's TV for kids. I often put drinks out for them, Huggies, water, tea, sometimes cocoa, candy, there's chips, there's things that you could do. There's games, there's books, there's all kind of stuff that you could do to keep yourself preoccupied, before I have to, in the next session or so. This child comes into my office. He wasn't really a child. He was 13, comes into my office, doesn't even know he's on camera. My office door is closed. The sign says in session. Okay, so there's somebody back here in the middle of their session. What does he do as a developing psychopath? Because that's really what he was. What did he do? Well, he came up to my door because mom and dad couldn't control his behavior. I was the one who controlled his behavior in the office. So when he would walk past my sensor that's close to my office door, I would know somebody's walked past my door. So there have been times where I've had to end a session, pause it, and go to him and say, take a seat in the waiting room. And I don't want to have to tell you again. And he would sit there and not move, but his parents couldn't raise him. He was very oppositional, defiant, very much disrespectful. And anytime they would try to parent him and control him, he would just escalate and it would be this big kaboom, So he's roaming around in my office, and he comes over to my office door. He puts his ear to my office door, doesn't even know he's on camera. Okay. Puts his ear to my office door. Then he goes away from my door and goes down this small hallway, and it says patient records. It's deadbolted. Okay. He pulls on that deadbolt because he wants to know if he can get in there. Don't tell me why, guys. I have no idea. Don't ask me why, because I have no idea. And he's pulling on the deadbolt. He realizes it's locked. Okay. He goes over to the staff refrigerator, opens it up, finds, I was training an intern at the time. So we found her lunch, okay, which was a small box of Pizza Hut pizza. What do you think he did with it? He opened the box, took a few bites, put it back in the refrigerator. Then he goes to the waiting room and helps himself to about 5 or 6 pieces of the candy on the table, puts them in his pocket. Then he's walking around the waiting room looking for something else to do that's evil and just disrespectful. So I showed him the surveillance of him on there doing these criminal acts. And the number one thing I asked him is, what do you think that I'm going to do with that? How am I supposed to see this? And he says to me, I don't know. And he shrugs his shoulders like, I don't care. And I had to put my threat in on him. Do it again, you're terminated. I'm not going to deal with this behavior. And I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to do this again somewhere else, and somebody else will probably press charges on you. But he was a liar, because the first thing he said is, I didn't do that. His father in the waiting room clearly said, put that back. He says, I don't have anything in my pockets. He says, put it back now. I saw it. You have 7 pieces, And he says, which was very audible on the camera footage, he says, I don't have anything in my pocket, knowing that he had tons of candy in his back pocket, knowing that he just ate out of somebody else's lunch, knowing that he just pulled on the lockbox of patient records. He was a disaster. And God only knows where he is today, because I referred him to a higher level of care. He was not appropriate for the environment that he was in with me. But this is an example of the behaviors of a person who has a personality pathology. They're going to deny. They're going to minimize. They're going to make you think that you're crazy, if you will, for lack of a clinical term. They're going to also make you feel like you're not seeing things correctly, that your reality is an incorrect reality. You're going to be the one who is going to be standing there confused, scratching your head, trying to figure out, why is this person this way? Research in psychology suggests that there are people who behave this way, and they are a part of one of the 3 personality clusters. So let me put this in the chat box for you guys. Okay, hold on, guys. I'm trying to catch up with you. Okay, here we go. Personality clusters. Let me also say that this child that I just told you about, very much a schemer. And the reason he was with me, he's a prime example of this whole live chat tonight. The reason he was with me for therapy, and I was seeing him 2 times a week because his behaviors were outlandish. He was seeing me because he stole from and assaulted children who were on a field trip with their school and was selling candy, okay, in the front of a Giant Eagle, in front of a Walmart, a Target, a Sam's Club. I can't remember. It might have been, I can't think of the store. Darn, I can't think of the store. But these kids were outside with their cute little table, and they were selling candy and cookies and lemonade. And he not only threatened one of the kids, according to the police, but he pushed one kid, took the candy, and I believe he threw like a cup of lemonade in another child's face and walked off like it was nothing. And when the police got to him, the first thing he said to the police was, I didn't do that. They're lying. And so the crux of evil can be found in his soul, because he does anything he wants to do, and he totally lies about it, almost like he's far removed from the responsibility of what he's done. It's horrendous to look at. So some research suggests that individuals like that most likely are a part of a personality cluster. And this is how we describe personality in the field of psychology. So personality clusters, A, B, and C. So what's going on here? A, cluster A. So I'm going to put in here cluster A equals paranoid personality, schizoid, if I can spell, schizotypal personality. Cluster A, odd, eccentric, right? Different, fearful of kind of everything and everybody. That's the paranoid piece of this. That I'm being watched, I'm being monitored, I'm being harassed, I'm this sacrificial lamb for God because everybody is targeting me. I have this fear that everybody's against me in some form or fashion, watching me or doing something against me. But excuse me, those who are in this personality cluster, they are odd, eccentric, different, and paranoid. Okay. Cluster B is histrionic, narcissistic, antisocial. I feel like I'm missing one. Antisocial person. Well, I did put antisocial. Histrionic, narcissistic, antisocial, and borderline. What's the issue with this cluster B? Emotional, dramatic, erratic, reactive, and impulsive. And I would say people with the personality pathology that we're talking about tonight, schemers, controllers, manipulators, people who play mind games, they're in cluster B. Antisocial. Histrionic is theatrical. I'm going to do a video next Tuesday for you guys on theatrics and people who kind of manipulate others with theatrical stances and attitudes and behaviors, and the list goes on. Excuse me. So we have antisocial personality, which is kind of indicative of sociopathy. Then we have narcissism. We have histrionic, which is theatrical. And then, of course, we have the borderline personality. Okay. Last cluster is cluster C, and that is avoidant, obsessive, compulsive, and dependent. Now, cluster C is more of the anxious, fearful, and neurotic kind of people. These are the individuals who perfectionism, the obsessive compulsive personality disorder, perfection, cleanliness, organization, have tons of things to do but can't get it done, cluttery mentality, right? Everything in my head is so disorganized and all over the place. The list goes on. So this is the category where you may want a relationship. The person may want a relationship, but they're so anxious and they're so fearful of how their lack of social skills has them that they don't reach out. They want some normalcy. They just don't have the courage to do it. They're just very, very anxious and shut down. And then you have the dependent personality, which is I'm so dependent upon you, I can't do anything on my own. So there you have it. There's all the clusters. I put it in the chat box. And this is kind of how we look at personality. And we say, okay, here's the cluster. Where do we put the schemer? Where do we put the person who's playing the mind games? Where do we put the person that's manipulative? And we typically put them in the antisocial cluster B kind of area. And we say, okay, on a spectrum, let's just for the sake of it, say a spectrum from 1 to 10. 10 is really bad symptoms. Where do we say that this person is in this category? Where do we say that this person is along the spectrum, And so what we're talking about tonight is definitely cluster B. And we're talking about somebody who is a schemer, a liar, a cheater, a deceiver, and someone who plays mind games. And what happens with these kind of individuals is they end up destroying other people's lives, or their disposition seeps over into other people's lives, and it can shut you down for a very long time. So how does this impact you? Excuse me. How does this impact you? Number one thing, and then I'm going to go to the chat box. I'm going to go to the chat box, and then we will go ahead and wrap up. Okay, guys. So what's the impact? You're in a family situation like this. You are in a relationship with somebody like this. How does this impact you? The number one thing, research backs this up, is a fear of chaos and uncertainty. Imagine growing up with people like this, parents like this. We talked last week, I think, I think it was last week, about immature and emotionally detached parents. Imagine having a parent who is also a schemer, a controller, a manipulator, a dominator, plays mind games with just about everybody and thinks everybody is stupid and blind. It's going to be really hard for you to engage in relationships, right? Because you've been up under that for so long. So there may be a fear of chaos and there's uncertainty. There's also this loss of hope with humanity. There's a loss of hope with humanity. If you are like that and you are like that and you are like that, why are you going to be any different? And I see that when it comes to therapists. Sometimes my clients will say, I'm really glad that I gave this another shot because I had this therapist and he did this. I had that therapist and she did that. And it was a disaster. So I'm glad I tried it again, and I can hear from that there's a loss of hope in the field of psychology. There's a loss of hope in therapy. So you may have a loss of hope in humanity. You may have difficulty constructing any kind of meaning, personal meaning, spiritual meaning from adversity. You may have a really difficult time constructing meaning, spiritual, literal meaning from adversity. It's too much pain. So I don't see why I had to go through A, B, and C. I don't see why I had to deal with this person over there because I don't see adversity as a blessing to me. Those of us who believe in the Christian God, we believe in the Word of God, we believe in spirituality and connecting with that God or Jesus or I'm going to say just this kind of connection to the spiritual source, almost like a, what do you call it? I'm blanking on it. But I'll put it this way. Being connected to that power source, those of us who have the Christian perspective or the spiritual perspective of God, we feel that there is hope that comes from adversity, that even though I had to go through all of these horrific things, I'm a loving person. I'm a caring person. I'm more wise. I'm intelligent. I'm stronger. I know what adversity is. And so therefore I'm grateful. I'm right. So we believe that there's these positive things that comes from adversity, but not having that perspective, right, makes it a little bit more difficult for some people to just say, you know what, there's some meaning to this adversity. Existentialism, logotherapy from Dr. Viktor Frankl, who wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. I'm going to put that in here for you. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Okay. His book is all about meaning and purpose that was derived from his personal and occupational experience. And it's a story of trauma, but it's also a story of triumph because he was able to take that difficulty and say, you know what, this may have been extraordinarily difficult, but here's the purpose in it, but you may have a hard time doing that. You might also grow into this person who micromanages all the time. You micromanage, you control because you're afraid to let that control go. That's a normal thing. You may also have a weak sense of identity. I don't know who I am. Who are you? Because I don't know who I am. Oh, I think I'll be like that right over there. Yeah. I'll take that perspective. I'll just be snarky and sarcastic and funny, and I'll just steal that identity and put it on because it works. I have clients that have been there. You may also feel like everyone is threatening you. So you may develop a form of paranoia yourself, There may be a challenge for you to clarify any kind of misunderstandings with other people and make sense out of conflict. It's hard to engage in healthy conflict or problem solving when your whole life has been running from people that you can't trust, right? You limit your potential. Fear, anxiety, anger, all of that limits your potential over time. And I hate to say this, but it is something that research backs, that when you have been through so many traumas, so many relationship traumas, so many fears and anxieties, it is very, very possible that you can develop over time a delusional disorder where you begin to believe that things are happening that's not happening, that things are occurring all in your environment around you and maybe within you, and it's not happening. Maybe you feel like you are being harassed and stalked and targeted, and the list goes on, and it's not happening. Maybe there's deep paranoia and you can't sleep at night. Maybe you wake up after terrible nightmares and night sweats and, really just feeling disconnected and detached from safety. All of those are symptoms, and they're symptoms that are there to show you that you're not quote unquote crazy as the ignorant group of people who think that way would say. You are dealing with very legitimate, if this is you, very legitimate symptoms that need to be heard, understood, and treated. But a lot of people fail to realize that the trauma can sometimes precipitate delusional disorder. It can also precipitate psychosis. Do we know when we're ill? No, not always. Not always. You have to kind of function at a higher level. You have to function at a different level of vibration to be able to look down and say, oh, I'm not well. A lot of people slip into delusions and they slip into psychosis and don't even know they're there. The only time they know they're there is when they wake up in a psych ward, or they wake up and they say, quote unquote, wake up and they say, I can't do this anymore. I need help. Right? So that's a possibility. All of this is backed by research. Everything that we just talked about, chewed on for a little bit in this past hour and a half, it's all backed by research. Isn't it scary, guys? Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the psychology of lies, control, dominance, the list goes on. It's going to be a conversation mainly about liars. Okay. So if you want to learn a little bit more tomorrow about those people around you who lie, and they lie like they're chewing bubblegum, you're going to want to see me tomorrow. All right, guys, let's chat just a little bit. I'm going to look at the comments I missed, and then we're going to wrap up. Danita Miner, hello. It's good to see you, my friend. Danita Miner says, can the dark triad skip generations, or did I marry my mother? And created my mother? Both. Can I say both? Danita, hang on for dear life. Let me explain this, okay? Because you're probably like, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, Danita, here's how this goes. Dark triad traits can skip generations, 100%. 100%. That could be because of two things. One, genes and biology, and two, environmental influence, okay? Conditioning is a real thing. Conditioning is a real thing. You can actually be conditioned by people, experiences, lack of experiences, the list goes on. It conditions and molds you into a person, right? So if you have the dark triad and grandma and great grandma, they most likely have conditioned you, and they've conditioned other people that they've been around. And so you may be showing behaviors, your other cousins may be showing behaviors, the list goes on. It can be passed down over time. So there's a generational transmission here. But here's an interesting way that it can also happen. How do I want to say this? Because I don't want to confuse you. You could have so much damage from those people in your life, your family, who have dark triad traits, that you don't realize that you are used to interacting with them. You kind of develop this comfort level, in a sense, where you reach for other people and pull them into your world who are similar to grandma and great grandma. And that's because you're very used to that. So that's a possibility as well. That's a great question. Ali Wen, I agree. You're welcome. You're welcome. I agree with that. Helene Webster, I'm just going to put your comment on the screen as I scroll and look at other comments, but it's always good to see you. Hope you're doing okay. Excuse me, guys. Excuse me. Lori says, the Foundations of Psychopathology book looks fabulous. I wonder if it's available on Libby or Audible. It could be. Somebody let me know if it is. Somebody let me know if it is, and I'll post it for other people who may want to get the book. Ellie Wen says old books can be very helpful. Can't they? Can't they? I'd rather read old books like this, Foundations of Psychopathology. I'd rather read this, okay, than the DSM that's been remade and remade and remade and remade and remade. And it's still going under revisions. I would rather read that book. Excuse me. Cams, I love that. Hello and welcome. It's good to see you. Welcome to the channel. And I so appreciate you saying that. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm really glad to have you on the channel. Okay, let's keep moving, guys. Yeah, you're welcome, Phoenix. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm humbled by that. Thank you. And you're welcome. Captain Commenter said narcissists, they isolate their victims. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They isolate you so that you don't have the ability to have somebody else come into your life who is sane, aware, plugged in, and they pull you out of their grip. You know, I previously, you guys are probably like, at this, I hate to mention this, but you guys are probably going to be like, when do you stop getting, you know, experiences of learning? When did you not do? One of my coworkers said to me once, when do you not do something? So this is a part of my experience or professionalism that I never mentioned, which is my experience in working with cases where there's been rape, where there's been sexual assault and child sexual abuse. And so I used to work in a facility where I would counsel or I would be on call for individuals who are sexually violated, raped, assaulted, the list goes on. Okay, guys, I never mentioned that because it was such a small piece of the puzzle in my career, but I do remember some of those cases. And one of the cases was that the only way that a father, and this was a disgusting case, like it really burned me out because dad was so unstable. My God, he was unstable. And he thought it was okay to sexually violate his daughter, who was 15. And he was a young dad, you know. And let me throw this out here. He was stepdad, by the way. Biological dad was deceased. First, he was incarcerated, then deceased. Stepdad was a little bit younger, closer to the age of the daughter. Mom was, I don't know, liked young boys or young men, if you will. So she was 50 and he was 25 and her daughter was 15. Like daughter and he, to me, were closer in age than 50 to 25. You know what I mean? So in a sense, he found her attractive, even though she was forced to call him dad. Can you imagine this? And I think I resigned. I put in my 4 weeks notice, after this case, because this case was so draining. One of the things that he did when he started to sexually violate her is isolate her from her mother, isolate her from her friends, because if he could isolate and kind of keep her in this bubble, then he didn't have to worry about somebody else getting in the middle and changing the way that she saw reality, changing the way that she saw him. He groomed her, you know, he groomed her. He bought her compassion and her love and her, even her respect. And so because he groomed her for so long, and because she was trying to play this role of we're together, you know, you're my stepdad, it caused him to want to go beyond stepdad. And the sad reality of that is he isolated her as much as he could. You know, he even isolated her from me for a few months. And thankfully, she was smart enough to go to a friend's house after school and give me a call so I can have the police there and so that I can report to Child Protective Services. But isolating the victim is a key schemer's strategy. It's a strategy and it works every time. It works every time. Fairy Girl, did I say hello to you? Fairy Girl, welcome to tonight's live chat. It's so good to see you. Welcome back. Mark Lee says, I always love your comments, Fairy Girl. Mark Lee says, Tamara, I'm having trouble finding bright, intelligent people for socializing with. I was very good at making very good at making friends. Excuse me. Before I had the narcissistic relationships, I'm trying isolated. Yeah, I understand. I understand. You have to ask yourself maybe a couple of questions. Do I need to be in a group of people who understand my struggle? Maybe I'm not looking in the right places, or maybe I'm not. So I assume that you have some kind of spiritual level that you're at, just because of some of the things that you've said. So maybe you want to ask yourself, do I need to be around like minds and people who are spiritual? And if so, what areas can I look for these kind of people in? And even though I'm trying, perhaps it's not my time to force this. Maybe I just need to wait a little bit. So there's some self exploration that may need to happen there too. Ecolite Fee, I know I messed that up. Please forgive me. It's good to see you. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Ecolite Fee says, I have a family male relative that is very much aggressive when they want money, and the mother says no, and he is schizoaffective, and he gets really aggressive. Yeah. You guys know what schizoaffective disorder is? That's really tough. I'm sorry that is happening within the family context. Schizoaffective disorder, break the word in half. So schizo meaning psychosis, or some kind of break from reality, or break from what is sane, if you will. So the schizo piece. Affective is emotional, which means that there is some kind of emotional disorder here, like a bipolar disorder or major depressive disorder or something like that. And it's bringing those two things together. So that's why we call it schizoaffective disorder. And schizoaffective disorder is a psychotic disorder that's characterized by sometimes delusions, hallucinations, really unhealthy ways of thinking, and sometimes suicidal thoughts and behaviors, gestures, as well as depressive symptoms, right? So depressed and emotional, and the list goes on. That's a really hard thing to deal with. A and B, it's good to see you. You see how long I'm on tonight. I should have been off of here. So you're totally not late. It's good to see you. Brondo, just want to say hello. Good to see you. All right, let's keep moving. Okay, because we're going to wrap up here in just a second. Wait a minute, guys. Bear with me. I'm way behind. I'm so behind, guys. I need to hire somebody to help me with the chat section. Liz Delgado, hello and welcome. I don't remember seeing you, so welcome to the channel. It's good to have you. Liz says majority of people are that way. I have to say that's true. There is a majority of people in the world who seem to fit every characteristic that we talked about today. Every characteristic. I know it's depressing. Eminel Odell says you really almost have to have surveillance these days. You do. In your car, in your office, in your home. Mm-hmm. Dennis Robinson, excuse me, says they go. Did I say hello to you tonight, Dennis? I don't think I did. Hello and welcome. It's good to have you in tonight's live chat. Dennis Robinson says they go extreme lengths to protect their alternative reality. Yes, they do. I'm going to star that in the comment section. That couldn't be any more true. I agree. Ty Cobb says the worst is when one fancies you, then stalks you for years because you rebuffed their clumsy overtures. Yeah, true. I agree with that. You guys know that I have, in my very, very long past, was professionally stalked by a mother who had schizoaffective disorder. Her schizoaffective disorder morphed into schizophrenia, full-blown schizophrenia. And she stalked me for a good 6 to 8 months. And talk about being exhausted. I was exhausted until I finally hospitalized her against her will. I just couldn't do it anymore. And she was able to get some help. But my God, it is really, really difficult. And it could be that one small thing that you said, didn't say. Sometimes eye contact is enough to cause a person to want to stalk you, right? Okay. NGO says they love to patronize you too. Totally agree. Patrick Black says, hello, everyone. Hello, my friend. It's good to see you. Welcome back. Sorry, guys. It's time for me to wrap up here. It's good to see you, Patrick. Patrick Black 1. Okay, couple more comments and then we're signing off. I just want to make sure that I haven't missed you. If I have missed you and you've given a super chat, you've said anything, you've asked me questions, forgive me that I can't get to all of you in one night. However, if you post it in the comment section, I will definitely be able to come back to it later and respond. Life with the Lab and More says, good evening. Hello and welcome. It's good to see you tonight. Life of the Lab and More says, when kids do the theft of your patient, they take it to adulthood. Yes, they do. I have a relative who stole money from my grandparents, retail stores, and schemed for extra inheritance. Yep, there you go. Thank you for saying that. Very much agree. They do. They take it to the next level, right? I usually tell parents, if your kid by the age of 10 years old, the tender age of 10, right? Because they're like, still in childhood, but trying to become an adolescent. They're in that weird position, right? If your kid is about 10 years old and they're stealing, cheating, deceiving, lying, scheming, you've got a developing sociopath on your hands. And it depends on how severe this is, of course, right? And it depends on that child's storyline. But for the most part, if you have that at a young age, you're on the wrong road already. That kid is going to need some intensive therapy to help them understand what's socially appropriate and what's not, you know? So you're right. It goes from childhood into adulthood, sometimes. It's very sad. All right, guys. I need one more comment. Bear with me, guys. B. Millie. Hello, and welcome. It's good to see you. Welcome back. I think I remember you from a couple chats ago. Welcome back. It's good to see you. I'm just going to put your comment up on the screen. Layla Papa. Hello. I haven't seen you in a while. It's good to see you. Layla Papa says, I have avoidant attachment disorder, people-pleasing, perfectionism, the artist, the writer, the codependency, the perfectionist. The list goes on, girl. I know, I get you. Let me say, avoidant attachment disorder, avoidant attachment style can be very similar to avoidant attachment disorder. They carry the same set of behaviors. And it can be really difficult to trust other people because of that anxiety and that fear that something's likely going to go wrong, right? I want to be close, but then I want you to leave me alone because I'm afraid of you. I want you to be a friend or in a relationship, or I want you to love me as your spouse. I want you to care for me as your daughter, your son, but at the same time, never mind, because I'm terrified, you know? It's a really difficult dynamic, isn't it? Yeah. Nancy, thank you so much for that. I learn here too. You guys teach me. Thank you for saying that. That's wonderful. Derek Martin, hello. Hello. Welcome to the channel. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Derek, but we're going to leave that there because I may be misunderstanding that. I don't know. I'm not sure what it means, and I don't want to read into it. But it's good to have you. It's good to have you on the channel. DC, hello and welcome. It's good to see you in tonight's live chat. DC asks the question, or states, I'm sorry, can make you feel physically ill too. Yes, it can. Because you have to keep in mind that your fight or flight mode kicks off your central nervous system, which then kicks off the brain, which then can cause symptoms of physical ailments. And, you know, it just goes from there. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if I want to do that. Farrah, I'm going to put your comment up here for just a second. Yeah, phoning. One of my coworkers mentioned that to me the other day, and I'm like, should I do a live chat on phoning? I don't know. We'll see, guys. Captain Commenter says they shouldn't get married or have kids, in my opinion. What's the point if all it's going to be is abuse? I agree. And I remember asking my mom something about that. Captain Commenter, we're going to end on your question. I remember asking my mom that so many years ago. My question was similar. My question was, Mom, why do people have children only to later abuse them, mistreat them, put them in foster care, sign them up to be adopted? Excuse me. Why do people do that? And my mom gave me a wise answer, I think. And she said to me at the time, it's because they have one idea of what it's going to be a parent. And when the child is born and they realize that it's nothing like they anticipated, then that's when they start going downhill with being a parent. And then my second question to my mom was this: well, why do they have a second and a third child? And by that point, my mom's like, well, they're just blind and foolish, But I think that Captain Commenter, you make a really good point. It just doesn't make any sense, does it? It's a very, very sad reality. Guys, I love you so much. Thank you for all the continued support. I hope this was a helpful conversation tonight. It was comprehensive, right? I feel like we talked about so much and I haven't stopped talking. I'm tired of hearing myself. You know what I mean, guys? But I hope you have a wonderful Friday, a safe Friday, and come join me tomorrow. We're going to talk about the psychology of liars, why they lie, what the research says, who they are, the list goes on. I'm going to give you a very comprehensive conversation about liars tomorrow. So come see me tomorrow. Have a wonderful Friday. I'll see you soon. Good night, guys.